figure out how we move forward, making sure that we're taking care of our communities. So if I could ask for the slide set, the first slide. Thank you very much, and I present to you Dr. Lisa Richardson.
So thanks everyone, and I am really happy to be here. I think this is the biggest church I've ever talked in, so it's kind of intimidating. But I'm shorter than Nikki, so I don't need to hold this thing. So I got the most. Step back a little bit. I don't need a mic, but anyway. Next slide, please. So I got the part of the program that might be the most not exciting. So, but let's go through the data and let's talk about the importance of the problem. I think this project in particular that we're doing, I think one of the main reasons we got to do this is because I am the boss of the place I work and I am interested in these topics. And you really need somebody who's interested in the work and understands it. You need me to hold it? Gosh, I'm getting an echo up here. My apologies. Oh. And then I feel like, okay, never mind. Thank you. So next, would you go with the first slide, please? But just want to talk a little bit about what colorectal cancer is and really how it impacts the African American community. Is that better? Okay. Who's going to control this thing for me? Nope. Oh, there we go. I was about to say I could just wing it, but so this is most people. Well, maybe most people don't, but where your colon is. So your colon is in your abdomen, and this is a picture of it right there. And this is when we talk about colorectal cancer. We say colon, but it also includes the rectum, and that's the part that's near the end of the gut where the anus is as well. Next slide, please. And so, colon cancer is the second leading cause of cancer-related death in Black and African American people in the United States. And the thing that I'm passionate about with colon cancer is that we can prevent it. So if you get your colonoscopy, well, you get your testing for colon cancer. If it's positive, you get your colonoscopy, or you start with the colonoscopy. We find those things inside your colon that might become cancer and remove them, you never get cancer. So there's only two cancers that we can do that for, and the other one is cervical cancer in women. So that's why we've had so much success there too. Everybody gets screened. We do the remove it, and then the cancer doesn't happen, or find it early when we can actually cure it. Next slide. So again, I just talked about this, the polyps, preventing the colorectal cancer, and this is the real benefit of being screened. Next slide, please. And this looks at how long, and the reason you've heard you can get the colonoscopy every 10 years, or you get the blood test on the stool every 1 to 2 years, and that's because colon cancer develops slowly. So we have a long time to find it. We start usually at the age of 45 now, since we changed the recommendations about a year and a half, 2 years ago. But this is how it develops. It starts out as just a little bitty lesion that can be removed, and then it becomes more and more, it becomes larger, and it invades the wall of the colon and then can spread to the rest of the body. Next slide. So what are your chances of survival if we find it early? Well, as you see there in the first graphic, 80 to 90% of people will be cured if the cancer is found at a stage 1. That is the earliest stage. Usually that's just surgery. There's nothing else that you're going to need to have done, no chemotherapy or radiation. So that's really if the cancer happens, you want to find it at that time. As you see, as you go along, when it's advanced, stage 4, only about 10% of people live 5 years. So it's a huge difference from the beginning, to the latest stage of cancer. And even that one, though, things are improving because the medications we've developed to treat the cancer are so much better. Next slide. So who gets, colorectal cancer? 45 is when we start recommending that people get screened. You can get it at any age, but it's extremely rare under the age of 40. But 45 is about when the incidence sort of goes from being, very slow to almost exponential. And that's when we decide to give it at that time. Oh, I'm sorry. That's better? Yeah. Is that better? Okay. What's happening, y'all, is I'm hearing an echo, so I can't tell how loud I'm talking, so apologies. But anyway, and then what are the things you can do to prevent it? You know, diet, exercise, knowing your family history. We don't talk about cancer a lot in the African American community because it's still one of those things that's, I don't know, taboo. And it can happen in both men and women. So, none of us are exempt from getting this cancer. Next slide. So about 1 in 24 people, about 1 in 20, a significant number of people will get colon cancer during their lifetime. Next. And so about 142,000 people are diagnosed each year. That's about 16 people every hour. Oh, no problem. I can do that.
Thank you. We connected the system downstairs for the reception, so they need to shut it down and put it back up so that the sound will be better in the sanctuary. Thank you. Just take about a minute.
Is that better?
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. All right.
All right, no problem. Is that better? Okay, that's better for me too. I'm not hearing like 5 Lisas talking at the same time. All right, so next. So it's about like I said, about 1 in 20 people will develop, colorectal cancer in their lifetime. 142,000 people, 52,000 people will die every year. And that's been going down over time. Next slide. And then if you get, screening, we can prevent at least 60% of the deaths that occur. So 52,000 people are going to die. We can prevent 60% of those if everyone got screened and got the care they needed. One of the things I like to talk about quite a bit, but make the point of, screening is not the test. Screening is everything that happens. You get the test is abnormal, you get followed up, you have cancer, you get treated. That's what screening is. It's not just a test. And sometimes we forget. We think if we do the test, we're fine, and that's not the case. Next slide. So right now, when we change the recommendations for screening, 45 million people in our country have not been screened and are not up to date with the recommendations for screening. So every time we change things, it sort of looks bad for a little while until we catch up. So now we're in a catch-up phase with getting people 45 to 49 screened. Next slide. So what is screening? Screening is something you do before you have symptoms. And that's when you find the polyps, which is what we call the things that become cancer, or the cancers when they're small. Once you get symptoms, you're in a whole different phase of the cancer, because now you know you have it. So that's why we like to do it earlier and do it before you have symptoms. Next slide. So here we see men and women. Here, African Americans is highlighted, that we do have the highest incidence of cancer, colorectal cancer, in men and women. It's equal to Native Americans and women, but it's still higher than other groups of people. Next slide. So what's the average age of getting this cancer? We tend to get, as the pastor said, we tend to get everything younger, and seems more advanced and more aggressive than other people. But in African Americans, colorectal cancer starts sooner. The median average, is about 68 in us, and it's about 75 to 75 years old in white adults. And it's about the same, younger, older, but each group is different, but that's the difference. And this happens in almost every single cancer as well. We tend to get it younger, tends to be a more advanced stage, sometimes harder to treat. Next slide. And this is about death. How do we die? But as you know, we die more frequently as well. As Nikki said, it's about 40% higher. Next slide. And this is the trend of the new cancers. As you see, the cancer trends have been going down over time. And if it's kind of interesting, let me see what year is that? You know, if you look way back at the beginning, like in the early 80s, like late 70s, we got colon cancer less frequently than other people, not more frequently. So I have this saying that, it doesn't have to be the way it is now because it wasn't that way before, right? So what do we need to do to try to figure out how to get back to that? But it's kind of interesting, if you go back far enough, and I'm totally interested in history, you will see that we didn't get cancer quite as frequently, and I think it has a lot to do with lifestyle, adopting the lifestyle of the majority culture. We used to be more physically active. I grew up on a farm. And so we were all kind of skinny because we worked pretty hard, right? Next slide. Trends in deaths is the same, used to be about the same back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then it got worse. As you see here now, it's about 40%, but it used to be a lot worse, in the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000s. So we are making up ground, but it's still 40%. It's still a lot. Next slide. So, just a few years ago, we are, as I just showed you, everything is getting better. And a lot of it is thanks to screening. With deaths and living longer, treatment is really having a big effect. But there again, we still have to have access to that treatment. No matter how good it is, if you don't get it, it's really not going to help you or the community. Next slide. But as you see the trends and what Nikki said earlier, African Americans are screened at about the same rates as others, as whites. So what is going on here? And I think this goes on, for me, it's really, once we get the cancer, are we receiving the care that everyone else is receiving? And I think a lot of the research shows the answer is probably no. Next slide. And I think that's why some of the death is different. So the summary here of the cancer happens more often in African Americans. We do get screened at about the same rates, but we're still more likely to die. And getting screened is the best way to prevent colon cancer. And getting the screening test that's best for you, you do have choices, and I think we're going to deal with that next. Next. So most people's, stop working. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. It went away for a minute. So some people have increased risk. That's family history. That's what I was saying earlier about knowing what goes on in your family. That is a sign that we may need to start earlier with your screening. Larger polyps. And when we have colon disease there, that means things like a lot of polyps in your colon, a lot of inflammation in your colon, and that can also lead to colon cancer. Family history is extremely important, like I said. And there are lots of genes that we can look for to see if they run in your family. But even if you don't have a gene, if people are having cancer develop, you need to get screened usually at younger ages. Next slide. So the FIT test, that's what we call that. It's a test that looks for blood in the stool. And if it's positive or abnormal, you need a colonoscopy. So everything that we do, the colonoscopy is really what the end point. But the FIT test can be done if you don't want a colonoscopy to start out with. But you will have to have one if the FIT test is abnormal. Next. So many of you have probably had this test. It's when the colonoscopy is really a tube that actually visualizes. The doctor can actually see the colon, and if there are problems, remove them. If it's normal, you only need to have this done every 10 years. And a lot of people opt for this because of that. Next slide. Some new things on the block in the last few years, the stool DNA with the FIT test embedded. It's called Cologuard. You probably have seen this as a little box that talks to you about, they'll send the box to your house and you can mail it back to them. Or the CT colonography. That's a CT scan of the colon. And that's every 5 years. So you'll see that each one of them have different time periods. Next slide. I think this is it. So again, there's lots of things you can choose from. You should pick the thing that you feel comfortable with. Every test we do that isn't a colonoscopy has to be followed up with a colonoscopy, and that includes the CAT scan, the CT scan one that I described before. And the best test is the one that you want to get. I think a lot of doctors will tell you that the colonoscopy is the best. I don't necessarily think that's true, but the follow-up is, they're equal if everybody gets the follow-up that they need. Next slide. So that's it. So I'll have our next speaker come and speak with you.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you. And so I want to just say that talking about it is important. So, and I said this to the members at our church very recently. It's important because we need to know what to tell our own doctors. When we go to our doctors and they start asking us questions, if we don't have a family history, then it's very difficult for us to tell our doctors how they ought to structure our own care. And we don't like, I was just telling Reverend Yamaropa, we tell a lot of folks' business, but we don't like to tell our own business. But telling our own business is really important. And I say that because I have an aunt. She was my favorite aunt, and she died of ovarian cancer years ago, 30-plus years ago. And when she got diagnosed, I asked my grandmother what was wrong with Aunt Lucille, and she said, shh. And I said, huh? And she said, don't talk about it. I was like, no, what's wrong? What happened to her? And I'm just having to be very respectful because this is my grandmother, and I grew up old school, so I'm like, well, you don't ask too many questions. But I asked her again, and she said she's got it. And I said, well, what is it? And she said, she nodded her head. She got to see. And I was like, cancer? Shh, shh, shh. And I was like, well, where is it? She shook her head again. It's down there. Well, she had ovarian cancer. And my grandmother wouldn't let us talk about it. 30 years to the day, her daughter died of breast cancer that we didn't know she had because she didn't want to talk about it. And so her sister and I decided then, well, we got to talk about it because we have a family history. And if we don't know our own history, then we can't help take care of ourselves and we can't help take care of one another. So the first thing about talking about it means that we have to be able to come out of ourselves and share our information. We share it with ourselves so that we can share with our doctors, share with our families. But we also have, in our congregations, we have a responsibility to share with our community. And we all know, our church, we have a number of cancer survivors in our church. And it breaks my heart every time I hear of a cancer diagnosis in our church. But I think that we have to talk about it. And I know it's not easy. Because number one, surviving anything is difficult. Surviving cancer is extremely difficult. But if we don't tell our stories, then folks don't know that there are people who look like us, who are surviving, that they can talk to, that we can go to, that we can share with, that we can feel comfortable with. When we had these focus groups, we had people that said, well, I want to get screened, but I'm scared. In tears, I want to get screened, but I'm scared. And so what we said was, well, I'll go with you. You want me to go? I'll go with you. And that makes a difference. So talking about it makes a difference in our church. But it also makes a difference in our communities. Because if you live in a state that has a $16 billion budget surplus, and Dr. Richardson, I'm not talking from CDC right now, I'm just talking Nikki Hayes. If you live in a state that has a $16 billion budget surplus, but you have not expanded Medicaid, that's a problem. If you live in a state where people who are most vulnerable don't have access to clinics and to hospitals because you're closing them in their neighborhoods, in their communities, then that's a problem. If you live in a place where there are more liquor stores and wing stops on both sides of the street, on every corner, then there are grocery stores where you can have affordable fresh food, fresh fruits, fresh vegetable options, where you can walk, where you can exercise, then that's a problem. And as a community, just like we have really fought for years in our church's history for social issues, and where we fought for years to make sure that people have access to economic opportunities, where we need to continue to fight to make sure that people in our communities are living in communities where we have schools, where they can get great education and have access to healthy lives. All of that matters, and that's what we, the church, can do. And so that's why we came together to do this project, because we want to be able to provide the resources that we need so we can talk about it. because it's that important. So we have a tremendous amount of beautiful resources downstairs. I want to encourage everybody to go down when this is over so you can get yours. Take them home. Take them home not just for yourself. Take them home for your churches. Take them home for everybody in the community around your churches. We have plenty, and we want to be able to talk about colorectal cancer. After that, we want to be able to talk about other cancers. We want to be able to do more. So I want to invite you all to take a look at the resources. And now I'm going to invite my colleague, Megan, up to share with you some of what we've developed and then encourage you to go downstairs and take a look at them.
Thank you, Nikki. So I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me today. And just wanted to share that I've been leading on behalf of ACS this partnership with the CDC and also the A.M.E. Church of the Atlanta East District. And it's just been such a pleasure to work with everybody on this really exciting project to create these resources. So if you could pull up my slide deck, that would be great. I would love to walk you through these resources and just tell you a little bit about them. It should be the same slide set, just starting after where Dr. Richardson left off. Oh, perfect, thank you. Okay, great. So before I'm going to go through each of the materials with you just to give you some insight into them and the thought behind them. But before I go through the materials, I did want to take some time to just highlight the fact that all of these materials were created, again, in partnership with the Atlanta East District. Back in October of 2022, we had a day-long focus group where we had 27 participants from the 6 churches that Nikki highlighted. And we really spent the whole day first just learning about colorectal cancer and setting that knowledge level so everyone really knew what it was that we wanted to be educating people about and telling them about. And then we really spent the rest of the day brainstorming messages and materials that they felt would resonate and be the most relevant for the A.M.E. community. And so we worked with this group over several months to make sure that we got their feedback and opinions on all sorts of things, whether it was word choice or images and design, to make sure that they were confident in everything that we created. And so now we have this amazing collection of a lot of different types of materials that hopefully reach different individuals with different types of messages. Next slide. So here, I just wanted to highlight, out of all that work, we had 3 main themes come out of that day and then some messages under those themes. So the first theme was really about incorporating faith-based concepts into colorectal cancer screening messages. And so those messages in this theme include faith over fear, honor God by taking care of your body, your faith, your health, and listen to the gospel's call to live whole and healing lives. The second theme they came up with was increasing colorectal cancer awareness and knowledge through personal connections. And so those messages include share your cancer story, it can save lives, and I need you to survive. And the final theme was about empowering individuals through the strength of their community. And the messages there are, you are not alone, we're in this together. And there's nothing we cannot talk about on a Sunday morning. And of course, many of these are followed by this call to action to go get your screening for colorectal cancer today. And so you'll see these themes and messages incorporated in the materials I'm going to go through. Next slide. And so I know it might be hard to see this on the screen, and that's why I invite you to come down and visit me at the table so you can see these up close and personal. But I'm going to walk through each of these kind of materials just briefly. So this first one, it's flattened out here, but it's actually a trifold pamphlet, and it's quite beautiful. I really love this design. It really grabs your attention, but it really highlights some of those statistics that Dr. Richardson highlighted about colorectal cancer in African Americans, as well as the screening guidelines for colorectal cancer. And again, you'll see that language about that call to honor God by honoring your body and to get screened. Next slide. So this is a great flyer that outlines some of those screening options that, again, Dr. Richardson just highlighted. And it's really helpful, again, to tell you what they are, how they work, how often you get this. And this is a great tool that somebody who doesn't know what their options are can learn about them and even take it with them to, let's say, their doctor and use it as a tool to help them to decide what's the best test that they can get done. Next slide. So this is a great fact sheet. The front side contains, again, some of that great information, that basics on colorectal cancer and screening and those facts and figures, and also highlights those disparities that we've talked about. But this backside of the fact sheet is focused on faith-based messaging. And really just want to thank, again, Reverend Dr. Garland Higgins, who gave us a presentation on our focus group. And we pulled from her presentation some of the scriptures she used that really support this call to adopt these healthy behaviors. Next slide. So we have lots of message cards that we created, and these are about 5x8 postcard size. And this first one's really about this theme of the faith over fear. And it has this acrostic message. And Nikki shared this great anecdote earlier that in our focus groups, we had split into men and women's groups. And this one came from our women's group. They wanted to create this acrostic. They had lots of words and messages they wanted to get across. And later you'll see some postcards that are a lot more simple. And that was more so from our men's group, who were like, just do it. Just get it done. So again, this really, I think, highlights different people get information different ways. And so that, I think, is a really great opportunity for some to get this information. And on the second message card is what we saw on the previous slide, fact sheet. So just kind of reusing that. This is the cutest slide in the deck, just want to share. We love this card with this little girl praying. Really, I think, emphasizes, again, the scripture that acknowledges that anxiety and fear that can come with colorectal cancer screening. And this second card takes the lyrics from a song I'm sure most of you know, I Need You to Survive. And we thought this really helps show also the younger image of someone eligible for screening, to really fight that idea that this is just for older people, with the screening guidelines actually starting at 45. So we really wanted to highlight that. And that these cards use family messaging as a motivator, really making sure that, we know that our loved ones want us to be as healthy as possible. So the next slide. So this is a series of 4 cards that really, as Nikki was sharing, really highlight sharing your cancer story. It can save lives. We wanted to really underscore the fact that you're not alone, and we want to normalize talking about cancer. And so these 4 postcards highlight kind of some different scenarios. In the top left, we have Tamika, and her story addresses her struggle to trust the medical system with her care, but really then also highlighted how she overcame her fear with the strength of God and with her community. And in the top right, we have Henry. And he felt he was too busy to get screened, even though he had symptoms. He just had work and stuff, and so he was actually diagnosed at a later stage. So he kind of cautions people about that scenario. In the bottom left, we have Cynthia, and her story focuses on how she lost her father, who got diagnosed too late and passed from colorectal cancer, and it really urges you, don't lose your family too. And in the bottom right, we have Ruth. And her story talks about how you need to get screened even if you don't have symptoms, and really encourages people to find comfort and strength in your faith, knowing that God is with you. Next slide. So in addition to some really great print materials, we also have digital materials available as well. So we've used, again, the themes and messages that I've highlighted in some of these graphics. And these would be great to use on social media or in newsletters or emails in a variety of different formats. So we also have these available for you to use. Next slide. We made some really great videos that you would have access to. First, we created an animated video that's about 2 minutes. And again, it's faith-based and educates people about colorectal cancer screening. And then earlier this year, when we were at Antioch for a meeting, we were able to film some PSAs And so we have these videos that feature some individuals who were really, again, integral into this project, including Reverend Yamaroba from Mount Zion, as well as some other healthcare professionals from local systems like Grady, Emory, and Northside. And the longest one is 90 seconds, and the shortest one is 30. So these are really helpful, again, to post on social media or even in service or if you have events. And they won't feel really overwhelming. They're just pretty quick and to the point. Next slide. So we're very excited to announce that in July, we'll be releasing what we call our A.M.E. Church Resource Guide. And the intention behind this guide is to really take all the lessons and information that we've learned over the past 18 months of working with the Atlanta East District and create really simple, actionable steps that any other church or district could really carry out and replicate. And so not only have we been spending time with the Atlanta East District to create these materials, but we've also worked together to pull in community partners. So again, the American Cancer Society, the Georgia Colorectal Cancer Roundtable, and then health systems like, again, Grady, Emory, and Northside, to create this group to come together to come up with a plan that everyone can participate that works to, increase colorectal cancer screening awareness in the Atlanta East District. And so these partnerships helped strengthen relationships among everybody involved, and then they were able to come up with actual activities that they wanted to implement over this past year. And one of those was a Colorectal Cancer Awareness Sunday event. And so back on March 17th, I think it's about 10 churches in the district hosted a day where they shared these materials. They had guest speakers, and it was really informative and really helpful, and we got a lot of great feedback about these materials. And so this guide is just really helpful and will outline, again, in more detail the work that we've done, but give you quick, easy start steps that you can do in your own church to implement a community action plan and take these materials and help raise awareness about colorectal cancer. So if you're interested, you come to the table and I have a sign-up sheet, and I will send you the guide and a whole bunch of materials to help you with that. Next slide. And so, like I've said so far, the response to the materials have just been so great, and people have really loved them. And the best part, again, I just want to emphasize, is that they were created here locally with the A.M.E. Church. And there's a variety of types of materials that hopefully will really resonate with hopefully everybody. So please come visit me. We have copies of everything, and we'll also be able to share this website if you scan that. Or I can direct you to the website where you can download the digital materials as well. And then the last slide, I believe. I just wanted to throw this in and take the opportunity to mention, you might have heard about this on the news. It got some traction just recently, but the American Cancer Society has a new initiative, and at ACS, equity in cancer care is really at the heart of what we do, and we really want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. And so with that in mind, we've launched this new study called Voices of Black Women. And it's really not just a study, it's really a commitment to making sure that we can understand and improve the health of Black women across the country. And so it's an opportunity for women to sign up to participate. We are looking for 100,000 Black women across 20 different states, which include Georgia. And we're looking for women ages 25 to 55. And participation includes filling out some basic surveys, and then 2 surveys a year, every year for the next 30 years, because we want to track these women and really understand their lives and their environments and what they're experiencing so that we can better address their health needs. So just wanted to share that opportunity. You can get more information at the website there or by scanning that QR code. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. So now we get to the fun part, where you get to ask questions and we get to try our best to answer. Because what we want to do is we want to know what it is that we can do to help you to help our community. So please, if you have questions, we have about 5-7 minutes. So if we have questions, we're happy to answer. You have an oncologist in the room who happens to be a Black woman. That doesn't happen very often, so I invite us to take advantage of it. Yes.
Not, you mean what it is? What the symptoms are? Oh, okay. Well, the short answer is you can't really tell sometimes, and that's why when something's going on and it lasts for a while, you should go see someone. I think with diverticulitis, you'd probably have a lot more sort of abdominal pain. The trick with colon cancer is it's usually painless, right? And so that's what I meant by no symptoms, going to get seen. But if you have a lot of symptoms, that again, though, in some cases can be a sign of cancer, and you should definitely go see someone and get it checked out. But diverticulitis, you get treated with antibiotics or something like that. It's not cancer. And again, I think Nikki may have said this earlier. Don't be afraid to go in and make sure things are good, right? Because we get scared sometimes. I get scared too, right? Because you never know what I'm going to tell you, right?
And I will say, 10 years ago, I had my first colonoscopy. I was like, okay, I did that. I drank that nasty stuff. And I went in the next day, and they told me, you're great. You don't have to come back for 10 years. I said, thank you, because it's going to take me 10 years to want to drink that stuff again. So then I came in last month. I did my next colonoscopy. They said, okay, Ms. Hayes, you did well, but we need you to come in 5 years now because you did have a polyp that we removed. It was a tubular adenoma, which are the ones that tend to be precancerous, that turn into cancer. So they said, so we want you to come in 5 years. I was like, I didn't want to come back in 5 years, but I'm going to see you in 5 years. And I'm sharing that story just to say that it's that important. It's that important because the difference in my health 10 years ago versus today was, well, now you have a polyp that we have to remove. And then I got on the phone to my sisters and my brothers. I said, y'all need to go get your colonoscopies because now we have a family history of polyps that are precancerous. So we got to make sure that we're talking about it and we're checking it out. You have a question? I'm so glad you asked. You're right. And I thank you for sharing that. Now, what I will say is when we had the focus groups, and we had to do some prodding. Come on, can you please come? Some coaxing and prodding. But folks came, and the more we talked, the more people opened up. And the more we talked, the more we opened up. And the more we shared. Now, Megan said this. Now, the women, we came up, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to say, we're going to do this, and you have to do so-and-so. In the men's group, they said, let's make a postcard that says, just do it. And we were like, well, just do what? We know what we mean. Is what. And so, to Megan's point, we do need to figure out how we talk to one another. And we don't talk to each other all the same way. But if you go downstairs, the resources that you'll have down there, They have everything. We have QR codes that connect us directly to folks at Grady, Emory, and Northside who said, if you want us to help you with patient navigation, to help to get your members to different clinics, to help to get your members to services that they don't have to pay for, we can do that. And so we've been able to form these beautiful relationships with our health systems in our community that will help us do that. There are suggestions in there for how you have the conversation. I promise you, if you give someone in your church that postcard with that little girl that says, "Dear God, please help my granddaddy not to be scared. He's got to have a test today." That might be all you need.
I'm a granddaddy. I need something for grandmama. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions? I'll get you.
Thank you, my sister Nikki. Thank you. I wanted to have, I'm sure you've talked about all of this, is that people have case studies and they have examples of people who have been close and near and dear to them who not only suffer from cancer. My cousin, who's like a sister, is at CTCA right now getting radiology treatments on her brain. So when we talk about prevention, and church folks a lot of times say, God is going to heal me. But we haven't taken the time to go and see a doctor. We wait until the end stages when it's already there, rather than dismissing it as nothing is really happening. I saw it with our colleague from CDC, who was my best friend, who died 2 years ago. Had every kind of doctor in the world, from OBGYN to every kind of specialist, but did not have a primary care physician. So can you talk about that? Thank you.
So what I want to talk about is, it's what you just talked about, the medical history, knowing what's going on, talking with your physicians. I'm a Christian. I grew up Baptist, and I grew up in the church. We are, as physicians, we are God's hands, right? So I think what you just said is so important. Like, we wait and we pray. Don't get me wrong now, I pray every day. But, you got to get up and go do the work yourself too, right? You got to go see the people that can help you. And when I pray for people who are going through things, I pray for the physicians, the nurses, and other people who take care of them, that they would be, that they will be illumined by the Spirit to know what's wrong and to help you get the best care that you need. And also bring to you kindness and respect when they're doing the care and taking care of you. So that's what I would say. We're all here because God put us here for a purpose, right? And so just to stress to people, and I do that, they're like, yeah, I pray every day too, but, sometimes it's like the manna, right? God gave us He gave them something to eat, but they had to go pick it up every day. So I think it's the same with our care and our medical care. So thank you.
I have a question.
And I will say this too, and I'm going to come to your question. And we talk about this a lot. Knowing your family history is important. Dr. Russell, I will have to say that the reason I wanted to do this project is because you and I talked about Reverend Frank Smart, who died of colorectal cancer at a very early age. And a part of that was not being able to recognize the symptoms and then wanting to go to the doctor to talk about it. So having our family history is important so that we can go to our doctors and say, I need such and such. And even when your doctor says, well, no, you don't, say, yes, I do. And if you're not going to give it to me, then I will go to another doctor. And I'll go to another doctor until I find the one who God sent for me, who's going to listen to me. And I told my doctor that the other day. She wanted to do a test that is not even, I was like, there is no recommendation for that. And she said, well, but people like it. Yeah, no. Now, if you want to give me a mammogram, we'll do that. But we're not going to just sit up in here and do stuff that makes no sense. And she said, okay. And then she spent all this time with me because then she figured out, oh, wait, this lady is not leaving until I give her what she wants. So I think that, being able to talk to your doctors and know what you want and taking that into the room is also important. But we have a question here on the floor.
Yes, you do, right here. I do have a primary care, and I have 3 others. That's where I spend all my time going to doctors. I'm 86 years old. One of those doctors made an appointment for me to have a colonoscopy. I've had them over the years. Then I read that if you're over 85, you really don't need it. They don't recommend it. Some medical groups. I read that from a medical group. So I called my primary care doctor, who I trust. I got him on speed dial. And he said, I don't recommend it for you now. So I canceled it. And 2 days later, they called to make the appointment again. The other doctor did. And so I told the person making the appointment, my primary care doctor says I don't have to have it, so no thank you, and I hung up. So, was I right?
I like that. I actually like that question. So the answer is there is no right or wrong answer. It's about you. Now, the reason we recommend that we stop at a certain age, and actually it's usually about 75, which today is what, like 85 is like the old 75. Yeah, exactly. So if you had a family history, I'd say go do it, right? And you don't, correct. You've been on a regular schedule of getting them and they've always been normal, then I would say you're probably going to be okay. Never say 100%, right? Probably. But what the general cutoff is, like you could be way younger. You could be like 50. One of the things we look at is like, how long are you going to live? Now, by the way, you've lived to be 86. You might live to be 100, right? That's what I'm saying. You know what? That's the truth, though. When you look at the data, the longer you live, the longer you live. So as we get older and older and older, we do have to pay attention to staying healthy as well, because we might live another 10 or 15 years. But I think, if can't tell you because I don't know your history, but if your primary care doctor said and you trust that person, what Nikki said was really, really, really important. You have to trust that person taking care of you. Because I've fired primary care doctors before because, they didn't kind of pay attention to the things I wanted them to pay attention to. So, but no, I think you're going to be fine.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Take this one and then we'll come over here.
I'm 72 years old. I don't look it pretty.
Come on, 72. Yes, yes, yes.
One of the things I'm having a problem. The problem is that all of my doctors are in Florida. My cancer doctors say I have MGUS. I don't know what the dickens MGUS is. Can you explain? All right.
Dr. Richardson will hang around. And so, yeah, we
All
can
right,
meet
thank
outside. Or down here. Why don't you come down here afterwards? No, not now, but at the end of this session. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. You may have already answered the question, but I just want to know, why is it that African Americans have the highest rate of the colon cancers and the other type cancers?
Now, that's a great question as well. So I think, my thoughts on this have sort of, evolved over time. So this may be more information than you want, but, things that are wrong with their body. So number one is discrimination and racism, okay? It causes a tremendous amount of stress on your body. Am I right? Your
Yes.
body, your mind, your health. So, some of the research has shown all of this stress, it impacts everything about your body, right? And the final pathway to almost everything that's wrong when you get sick is inflammation. And all this stress causes a lot of inflammation in your body, right? And so it's just where we live and how we live and all the stuff we have to put up with all the time, right? And I think that's a lot of it, because it can't be genetics, right? Because almost everybody's genetics are the same. But what are the things that you're exposed to as you're growing up, as you're an adult? Even now, when you go to work every day, what are the things that you have to deal with? Those things cause us to be sick, right? Now, one of the things that you can undo it, but who knows, you can sort of, not undo, well, you can't get any younger, right? We can undo some of it. But, just trying to figure out how to cope with things, which is difficult too, right? People's like, oh, just get over it. Oh, just get over yourself, right? Whoever said that to you. So I think it's a lot of that. And so that thing I showed, earlier about how we get cancer younger, and they think that is what it is. It's just chronic stress and just trying to make it in the world every day. That's a lot of it. That may be unacceptable. Might be the best answer, but I think it's, we all sort of go out of here earlier. In the Black community, if we live past, I think it's, if we live past about 70, we're going to live a long time. We probably outlive other people. But it's all that early on, middle age is when a lot of us pass away, right? I'm 61, and a lot of my friends are dying, right? And from things that, you shouldn't be, heart attacks, strokes, stuff like that. So anyway, we could talk about that some more, but it's really the world we live in that really impacts how we live or how we die too.
Okay, so what you're saying also then is that we as African Americans, we should pay special attention to trying to relieve those stressors in our lives.
Absolutely. If you can find a way to lower your stress, absolutely. That will help you live longer. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If we can get to 70, we're going to live forever. I am totally serious. Next time I come, I can show y'all some graphs. It's amazing.
And then that's why I say that in our communities, making sure that we're going to the State House, making sure that we're going to the city halls, and we're talking about what we need in our communities, that we're doing work to make sure that we're not putting up more liquor stores, that we're not putting tobaccos in the front of the stores, that we're not selling, that we're not promoting all of these things in our communities that we don't see in other communities, that we have fresh fruits and we have fresh vegetables and we have sidewalks and we have bike paths and we have things that help us to be able to live healthy too, because we all deserve the opportunity to live healthy. And I think that as a church, that's what we have a responsibility to ensure that our communities have as well. And so it's our responsibility to be the voice. Bishop, I know that it is 4:37, and I don't want to hold you because I know that the next session is extremely important too. But I do want to thank our presenters, Dr. Richardson and Ms. Burns, and thank you all for indulging us. Please go downstairs to the table and get the resources. We have plenty, and we want you to have them. If we run out, let us know because we'll make sure that you have them. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's give them a hand. And I do want to encourage you to go downstairs to their table. I think that will benefit you greatly. Benefit you greatly. All right, now, brothers and sisters, is Sister Mac here? Sister Mac, come on down. Y'all give her a microphone. All right. Here. My brothers and sisters, this is Sister Mac, and she is aspiring. She is in the runoff. Is that right? Scheduled for June the 18th.
That's correct.
And she's come to ask for your support. All right, go right on ahead.
Can y'all hear me? Oh, it didn't seem like it was on. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Yolanda Mack. I'm a candidate for DeKalb County State Court Judge. Thank you, Bishop Jackson, for giving me this opportunity to address everyone. I just want to start off by saying on the election on May 21st, I received 46.6% of the vote. So close, but not close enough, right? So I was coming here just to ask you for your support. I grew up in DeKalb County. I went to Avondale Elementary School, a graduate of Avondale High School, the first DeKalb Center of the Performing Arts. I am a double HBCU graduate. I graduated from Alcorn State University and my law school at Texas Southern, Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I returned back to the metro Atlanta area where I started my career as a public servant. I started my career as a public defender, and now I'm currently the deputy of the Sexual Assault Unit under DA Fonnie T. Willis in the Fulton DA's office. Absolutely. DA Willis is endorsing my campaign, And before that, I was the Deputy of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault in the DeKalb DA's office. I'm here to ask for your vote and your support for this runoff, which is June 18th. We are in early voting right now. It ends on Friday, so your last day to vote is Tuesday, the 18th. I'm also being endorsed by Vandy Simmons, who is here somewhere, with Antioch. Thank you, and Bishop Jackson. Senator Emmanuel Jones, Representative Billy Mitchell, Ambassador Andy Young, and 30-plus other endorsers. I'm a member of Leadership DeKalb, class of 2021, as we say, the best class ever. Junior League of DeKalb. I'm the co-chair of the Black Pearls for NCNW, which is their mentee program for young girls. I work with Sheriff Melody Maddox, her summer camp, and I mentor her girls throughout the year. She's also endorsing my campaign. So I'm just here to ask for your support. If you live in DeKalb, ask for your vote. If you know people in DeKalb, let them know I'm running, and to vote Yolanda Mack for Division 3 DeKalb State Court Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And I want y'all to know I'm with her 100%. I want y'all to help her. Now, brothers and sisters, let me acknowledge the presence of Bishop David R. Daniels and his absolutely lovely wife from the 17th District. Stand up, Bishop Daniels. Stand up, Sister Daniels. We are delighted to have you all here today. They are my friends. They are my friends. And then we have Bishop Ronnie Elijah Brailsford and his lovely songbird, Sister Brailsford. They're from the 19th District. They're our guests. I want them to be at home with us. We're going to take good care of them. Want them to be at home with us. And they got to give me a report from a meeting yesterday. I told y'all the bishops have been scheduling meetings when they know I can't be there. So I want a full report from when I wasn't there. I want to know every word that they said and who they were. Sunday morning I preached here at Turner Chapel. My subject was Some Say. So I want to know what some said. All right, praise the Lord. Now, brothers and sisters, this is really a kind of a tough time for me because I'm in the home stretch. The law of the church says that the bishop cannot stand a district more than 8 years. My 8 years is up August 28th. I'll be frank with you, they're up in July, but the General Commerce is not until August. And what is particularly burdensome to me is that the election will be in November after I'm gone. And this is going to be a tough year. And before I get started on what I want to say, all of the ministers who are here from the Ministerial Alliance in Savannah, please stand. All of the Ministerial Alliance in Savannah. I meant to have a plaque made for them. I want to thank them because over the 8 years that I've been here, this Ministerial Alliance in Savannah has been absolutely phenomenal. Year round, they're doing stuff, having debates and having forums. And they call me. I said, Bishop, we're having a candidates forum tonight at 7 o'clock. If you can, will you get on? And so I get on. And I have a chance to listen to them and all that. But they have just been phenomenal. And I just wanted to say to y'all as we come to the end of these 8 years to thank you all for what you all have been doing. and tell y'all don't stop now. All right, but who's the president? All right, thank you, Dr. Clark. Let me thank y'all. And let me say to y'all, don't stop now. But I am extremely proud of what they've done in Savannah. Now, we've had other groups across the state, which is what has really helped kind of turn Georgia. But I just particularly want to recognize Savannah because your work just speaks extremely well. Thank you so much. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, again, and I thought about doing something else, but I said, let me get this out of my system while I am on this now. Stand up, Brother Game On, James Game On. Step out there and let the folks see you for a minute. You're going to be mad what I'm getting ready to say. For the 8 years I've been here, James Game On, I found out, loves shorts. He would be showing up to my meetings in shorts. I looked down there today, he got on long sleeve pants. I want y'all to get a picture of that. Y'all haven't seen that much. But I also want to thank him because he has really been phenomenal in what he's done to help us over the last 8 years. He has helped us organize Operation Voter Turnout. He's helped us to secure money where the last election we were able to pay people all over the state to help us get out our vote. He's been instrumental, especially during the pandemic, in helping some of our churches to get funding for vaccines and all of that. And even now, he's in the process of helping us with what they call greening the church, a lot of solar stuff. And there will be money coming into Georgia for this effort. And I'm trying to situate it so as the money comes in, there's accountability and transparency. I want to make sure everything is in place because I'll be gone, but I want the churches to be able to benefit from the greening the church and from the funds that come into the state. But I want to thank James Gamon who has been absolutely phenomenal. He and I used to be in New Jersey together, and he came to New Jersey before I came to New Jersey. But when I came to New Jersey, we put him to work. So I want to thank him. Reverend Barber, is Dr. Dozier here? All right. I want to thank Reverend Willie Barber, who has also been our social action chair and have done a great job. And one of the things I can tell when somebody's doing a great job is when they get on your nerve. Willie Barber has been good at getting on our nerves, but he's so good at it. And if I was coming back, I'd keep him in that position because he is terrific at what he does. He interacts with folk all over the state, and if I'm correct, don't we have a greeting from Congresswoman McBath to show us before? But whether it's Senator Ossoff, whether it's people in Congress, Willie Barber is just on the case. And so I want to thank y'all for a job extremely well done. In a few minutes, I'll ask y'all to cover up on something that I missed, all right? All right, now, my brothers and sisters, November. First of all, we have the primary next Tuesday, June the 18th. I hope all of you who are registered will go and vote in the primary. There are 2 other people here. I'll get to them in a minute, but I want us to prepare now to vote. And I cannot impress upon you enough how hard they are working to make it hard for us to vote. Most of you have no idea how hard they are working to make it hard for you to vote. In 2020, black folk in Georgia beat them at their own game because it was that whites were the largest turnout on early voting. In 2020, black folk turned out for early voting in astronomical numbers. And that's really what turned Georgia from red to blue. In 2020, Donald Trump announced he had won Georgia the night before. But that's because they had not only, but most of the vote that was counted were from the election day vote. Well, then the next day when they started counting those who had voted early, the thing got tighter and tighter until Biden went ahead, Warnock went ahead, Ossoff went ahead. And there was no way that any of them were supposed to win. So they bought into Trump's lie that the election was stolen. But the election wasn't stolen, it's just that black folk all across Georgia voted. And that is what it's going to take in 2024. And I repeat again, they're doing everything they can to make it harder for us to vote. Blacks in 2020 turned out in large numbers by using ballot drop boxes. People who got off work after 5 o'clock voted by ballot drop box. Turned out so large that SB 202, that law did a lot to make it harder to vote by ballot drop box. For example, in Fulton County, Georgia, where most blacks in Georgia live. In Fulton County in 2020, there were 35 ballot drop boxes. After they passed SB 202, it dropped from 35 to 8. They wanted to make it hard for us to vote. In 2020, they sent out applications for absentee ballots. In fact, a lot of our churches, we got them to put the applications for absentee voting in the back of your church or to pass them out to your members. SB 202 makes that illegal. You can't go and get an application and give it to somebody in your house. If you get caught, that's illegal. You see, and what happened was there were a lot of people who did not regularly vote. When they got that application for that absentee ballot, they voted. Ended up being about 1.5 million people. Most of them look like us. That's what allowed Biden and them to win. 2022, that was illegal. And people wonder why Stacey Abrams didn't win. It's because the drop-off in absentee voting was about half of what it was in 2020. That was no accident. And let me remind you, anything that works for us, they're going to cut it out. Anything that works for us, they're going to cut it out. They had mobile voting vans. Senior citizens didn't have to get in the car and drive to vote. Mobile voting van would pull up in front of the senior citizens building. They could walk out their front door, go in that van, and vote. They made that illegal. Everything that worked for us, they've made it illegal. And this year, which is going to make it even tougher, they made it easier for people to challenge your right to vote. They can come up to you and say, I challenge your right to vote. And then you've got to get clearance to vote. And for example, in the 2022 election, one man alone in Georgia, one man, just one clown, challenged over 12,000 people's right to vote. This year, the state legislature made it even easier. Now, they know most of the people who they challenge are legally able to vote, but their intent is to get you angry, to get you mad, to get you to cause a ruckus, get in a fight. Then you got a legal problem. Whatever it takes to mess up our right to vote is what they're going to do. So that's what we have to prepare for. And so what the A.M.Es came up with is Operation Voter Turnout. It has worked very well in 2018, in 2020, and it worked very well in 2022, except for the changes in the voting laws. And so we need to begin right after this primary on June 18th to prepare for this November's election. And before I go, I want to make sure everything is in order for us to vote so that whoever the next bishop is will not have to create something, but the plan will already be in place. Now, for example, I'm already in the process of getting a lot of the leadership in Georgia to meet, who I'm hoping is going to come to Georgia. I don't want them to be strangers. I want them to know each other before the election comes. And I'm asking the pastors to do your part to help us with this election. It is absolutely critical that pastors do their part. We're going to be providing election material so that our people are aware of what the issues are. One of the things which really hurts us is our people are really not aware or informed on what's going on in our community. For example, we hear absolutely crazy, ludicrous stuff now. A lot of blacks are upset that this isn't happening and that isn't happening. And we gave them our vote last time and they promised us all this stuff and it didn't happen. Now, if you're going to make those kind of statements, at least you ought to know what you're talking about. For example, they talk about the kind of stuff I hear. Blacks did better with employment under the Republicans. No, they didn't. Black unemployment today is the lowest it's ever been in the history of the country. So at least know what you're talking about. They talk about the HBCUs. Fact of the matter is, HBCUs get more funding now under this administration than they ever have. They talk about small businesses. There are more small black businesses that have been started under this administration than in anybody else's administration. The problem is the Democrats are the absolute worst people at political messaging I've ever seen in my life. When you do good stuff, it ought not be a secret. At least get the story out. You see? a lot of good things. There are more blacks who have health care today than have ever had health care. And we ought to give the black man who got the Affordable Care Act through. Barack Obama ought to be hailed for the Affordable Care Act. And all the folk who were talking about how bad it is, I'm talking about folk who don't look like us, they benefiting from it. So we at least need to talk about the good stuff that's happening. Now, they bring up the argument about, well, what happened to police reform? You're right, it didn't pass. And the reason it didn't pass is because they didn't have the votes in the Congress to pass it. And again, that's our fault. I don't mean Georgia, but it's our fault. In California and New York, the two bluest states in the entire nation, lost 10 congressional seats that they had no business losing because blacks didn't vote. We sat home and didn't vote. Hakeem Jeffries today ought to be the Speaker of the House. But blacks didn't vote. In New York and California, the two bluest states in the nation. So instead of complaining, you need to get up, get out, and vote. Then they talk about the school loan thing. Now, a lot of people's school loans have been erased because the president's used the executive orders. But that can't help everybody. But again, the reason it didn't pass is because you didn't have the votes to get it passed. White Republicans went around screaming about how unfair it was. How come they should be paying the school loans for people who got those loans and didn't pay them back? Now, they were talking about black folk. But again, when I say the Democrats are the poorest messaging people I have ever seen, nobody said nothing about the fact that most of the people who got them PPP loans were white folk. And most of them, the government allowed them to write those loans off. Now, if you can write off the PPP loan, why can't you write off your school loan? What's the difference? Except one group going to benefit is white and the other going to benefit is black. So I don't care what you say. In this country, you still black. So this election is important, and it is a lot on the line that's going to affect this nation. And I'm telling you now, black folk have the opportunity to help this nation redeem itself. And it needs a lot of redeeming. Now, I'm going to say this, and don't y'all get too shook up about it. Every now and then, every preacher needs to have some woods you can go into and say what you need to say and come on back. You need to do that. You know, when I pastored in New Jersey, we had a bowling league. And I went to the bowling league one Saturday night to watch my members bowl. And I had one of my members, he wasn't regular, he's one of them first Sunday members. He bowled and the ball went right in the gutter. And I mean, he said some stuff. And the folks saw me, they said, man, you can't say that, Reverend Jackson's here. You can't say that. And so to try to pacify me, they said, Pastor, you come on, let's see you bowl. I said, sure. I got that ball, went straight in the gutter. I called that man and said, come here. I said, say a word for me. That's what I said. So every now and then, you got to be able to go out in the woods The other day, I needed to go out in the woods moment because I heard that, ain't no reporters in here who I can say it. So when I heard that ignorant woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had the nerve to say that Trump was sent by God. I had to go out into the woods for a minute, get some stuff out of my system. But this is going to be a tough year. Every church ought to follow the plan, Operation Voter Turnout, that we put in place. Beginning now, every church ought to prepare a list of all the registered voters you have in your congregation. And you ought to prepare a plan for them to vote. Every single one of them. Prepare a list, prepare a plan for them to vote. How they going to get to the polls, how they going to get home from the polls, how they going to get their absentee ballot, how they going to get their absentee ballot in. We need to begin starting that now. And you need to ask every member in your church to get the names of at least 5 people who you commit to voting on election, in this coming election. Everybody, 5 people that you're going to encourage and get to vote in the election. Don't go by yourself. Most of us got 5 folk in our families not voting. You got folk in your community not voting. Talk to your neighbors. Get 5 people. Y'all get in the car, go together to vote. Those are the plans we need to be making now. Ask every one of your congregants, give me the names of the 5 people you're going to make sure vote. So those are the things we're really asking you to do. Help our people to know what the issues are. And we're going to have to really go all out, not only to make sure that black men vote, but the black men vote with some sense. One of the reasons why all these folk like Trump, they say Trump is strong. Trump is a punk. Oh, he is. He talks all that stuff because he know he got Secret Service protection 24 hours. You let him lose them Secret Service people. In fact, you let him put them in jail. I got news for you. He might go in on, but he's going to come out something else. But we've got to make sure black folk, black men, not only vote, but vote with some sense. And I am concerned because some black men have said to me some absolutely ignorant stuff. In the governor's election last time, some of them had the nerve to say to me, Bishop, it's not that. I just don't think a woman needs to be governor. Like they can't handle it. Now I told them, didn't your mama raise you? If she can raise you, she can run this state. So let's help our brothers. Let's help us to vote with some sense. We have too much to lose in this election. Make America great again really mean nothing more. Let's turn back time. Didn't have civil rights, didn't have voting rights, didn't have equal opportunity. Let's turn back time. That's all Make America Great Again mean. It means let's go back to where white men run this country. White women need to understand, they ain't out for you. It's about white male dominance. When they talked about the angry white male, I want to know what they mad about. They running everything. So let's really do our part. You'll be getting direction from the office in terms of what we're asking every church to do. We've managed to get in a partnership with the A.M.E. Zion and the CME churches in Georgia, where we're working together to get out to vote. And so I hope you will not be indifferent about it, as if this is not important. My brothers and sisters, it's entirely too important. I think it's a sin not to vote. So get up and go vote. I think it's ridiculous to get up in the pulpit and the people want to know, is there a word from the Lord? And you ain't got nothing to say. So it's important. The prophet read the newspaper every day. Some of us don't read the news, don't look at the news, don't know the news. Brothers and sisters, it is important. There's an effort now to undermine every black prosecutor in Georgia. That's what the whole thing is about, getting black prosecutors. A black woman had the nerve to indict that orange man. And they are determined they're going to get her for it. And didn't you hear that orange man? Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York, is racist. The District Attorney in New York, Bragg, is racist. Then the District Attorney in Fulton County, Fonnie Willis, is racist. Now, I tell y'all what I'm really asking the Lord to do for me. I will be content if the Lord would do this for me. I just want to see a black person put some handcuffs on Donald Trump. Now, that's what I want to see. And that ain't because I'm a Democrat. It's not because he's a Republican. It's because he'll learn he's not above the law. Now, if any of us did 1/5 of the stuff he's accused of, we'd been in jail. He gets subpoenaed, don't show up, ain't nothing happen. Now you get subpoenaed, don't show up and see what happened. So I've gotten that out of my system. Game On, anything I left out? I leave out anything, Brother Game On? Did I leave out anything? Brother Barbara, I leave out anything? Dr. Clark, I forget anything? All right, where Augusta Hall? Tell Hall he can't eat all day now. All right, anybody else I leave out anything? Yes, Bishop Guidry?
they will say it and do it for him. If Donald Trump gets elected again, we will no longer have a democratic republic. And so I'm asking my Republican friends to join the few sane Republicans still left and bring the Republican Party back so that Democrats can have some real dialogue with y'all. And so if you're a Republican here today, join those people like Miss Cheney.
Sure, you're right.
Join those people like Michael Steele. Join those people like the woman at 4 o'clock, White House, on MSNBC. What's her name? Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
Join those Republicans and bring back the Republican Party. Don't allow the MAGA folk to ruin our country. That's what they're doing. And that's what I'm asking. I want some Republicans that I can fight with and then go build a country with.
I wholeheartedly agree. People are shocked, but the best public servant I've ever known in my life, the absolute best, second to none, better than any Democrat I've served with, was a Republican in New Jersey by the name of Tom King, who was the governor of New Jersey, and a Republican. He would show up at the black preachers meeting on Wednesdays just to sit down and talk with us to ask what he could help with. He'd walk down the streets of Newark in the middle of the day, just stop people on the street, see what it was the state could do to help them improve their lives. He wrote a book called The Politics of Inclusion. Today, that same party says inclusion is a bad thing. So it's not really about Democrat or Republican, but your country ought to be more important than your party. So I understand there's some Democrats who have a wicked thought like we'll put the party ahead of country. There are Republicans who put the party ahead of country, and that's what's killing the country. All right, now we're going to get ready to go, but there are two people here. Yes, Martinique. You waving at somebody. Oh.
Thank you. I was wanting to say that I think another thing that we should consider for the election series, any election, is really incorporating poll watchers into what we do because as somebody, and I know there's many other persons who work the polls, we get to see firsthand the impact that the poll watchers have. So if we had more poll watchers from African Americans or even from our denomination that could really go into these elections, and we could have persons that could really sit there all day and go to multiple sites and look at to see what is going on at the election and how people are voting in the process and see if there's any discrepancies ourselves, and then come back and take a different perspective as well. I think we also the counties, different counties have poll watcher trainings, and they have different things that they can give and resources that we can get through that process. So I think that we should consider adding that, as well as telling people that they should become poll workers, because not only do they get paid, but they can also help the process and see outside of their own community where other people are voting and how they're voting.
Yeah, Martin, that's an excellent point you made, and I think Brother Gamon, and then one of the things we've done in the past elections is try to get poll workers, and I am pleased that there are a number of A.M.Es who in fact are poll workers. In fact, I think, well, watchers and poll workers, because I think, anyway, a number of our churches are also polling sites. I think candidates would do well to get some of us as poll watchers. I think in some of our counties, Elder McFadden, aren't you a poll worker in some of them counties? Yes. So as many of us, that is an excellent thing. And James, you want to say anything about that? All right. Go ahead and make your announcement.
That has a QR code that you can put out on use it during announcements. You could put it on the bulletin board. Just for one of the things Georgia does very well is the My Voter page. And this will allow people to this will allow individuals to go on, see where their polling places are, make sure they're registered, and any of the polling information they need will be right there. I also want to talk about over the last couple of months, a lot of the pastors have received phone calls. Some of my staff is calling people, calling pastors, and we want to know who the best contact person at your church is. We want to know what kind of events you're doing this summer. We want to be able to send some paraphernalia over, some education material, and starting in August and September, there'll be a couple of things that we would ask you to help us with. We will have a transportation program that for this year will run the entire early vote process. A lot of you have participated in our transportation program before. A lot of times it's just the weekend before Election Day and on Election Day. We will run transportation program the whole election cycle, in-person early vote and Election Day. There'll be a couple of different ways. There'll be a program that gives a direct stipend to churches to use your van to run sort of a mini program. We'll be working with the People's Agenda, where they have a program that goes statewide, where there'll be an 800 number they can call to pick up individuals and take them to the poll. And Uber and Lyft has a somewhat restricted program, mostly to the metros, that we'll also be able to use. We'll be helping church sponsor events. We have $400 grants that churches can use to have visibility events. If you want to do a dinner, bring people in, talk about the election, upcoming election as we get closer. We've been working with Why We Vote. It's Michelle Obama's group. In the past couple of years, we worked with them. We'll be having 15 what we call parties to the poll. During the early vote process and on Election Day, we will give, if you choose to host one of these parties, there's a $2,000 stipend, and these are great. We just want you to have fun. Located close to an election poll, you get a DJ, barbecue, have fun. People have done fish fries in the past, and just bring incitement to the community and let people know that it's time to vote. And then we'll also be doing Souls to the Polls weekend and have caravans going to the election poll. We did it 2 years ago. It was extremely exciting. We would start the caravan at the church. We would ask you to drive a 10-mile loop around the community and end up at a polling place. I participated at one in Covington, and it was amazing. As we pulled into the polls, you could see people who, when we went through the neighborhood, pulling up in their cars, also going and casting their ballot. So these are some things that I just want you to know. When you talk to your congregations, plan. We will make contact with you, let you know when and how you can apply for these funds. But I just wanted to let you know now. And always, I say this all the time, if you have an idea, let me know. We had over 500 churches. We should have over 500 different ideas because every community is different. What are the things that excite your community that you can do that makes people want to come out and be a part of it? Those are the things we want to help you fund. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now, brothers and sisters, there were two other candidates here. Please stand. All right. Come down, give us your name and what you're running for. All right. Randall Mangum. All right. Tell us what what you're running for.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being one of the few people of faith that has the audacity to come down to the Capitol and get in good trouble. I am Randall Mangum. I am a candidate for and I am amazed at some of the tricks that are played in Georgia. You see them all over the country. And so I am asking for first of all, your prayers, your petitions, your supplications for kings and those in authority. I am a Baptist preacher also, and I just thank you guys for your leadership because, Bishop, if you can pull all us together and do what we need to do in the faith community, oh, what a time, what a time, what a time. So I'm not just asking you, one, to pray. And then those of you who are in DeKalb and Gwinnett County, that my district 55 is in Stonecrest, Redans, Stone Mountain, Tucker, Snellville, Centerville. If you know someone in those areas, I ask for your support. I have some handouts that I will have in the back if it be permissible. But Mangum for Senate, God bless you, because we almost passed, for example, Medicaid expansion. And it's ironic, I talked to some of the guys when I was in the legislature with, it's their hospitals closing in South Georgia. It is in their best interest. And we've learned how to give some of them